Here at Rand's Tall Tales, we work with a small crew. Some of them are people. One of them lives offline on an A100 computer in the back room and has developed a bit of an attitude and a personality all his own. We lean on these tools to help generate the stories, the research, even a lot of the ideas you hear. But the search for what's actually true, that part is still on us. Lately, we've been digging into the very same kind of intelligence that's sitting in that machine with us every day. What the research is showing about how fast these systems are moving, what they're learning from us, and what kind of character might be forming inside them. If you've ever wondered whether the tools we're all using are still just tools, or if something else is starting to look back, stick with me. What we found might change how you see the one you talk to every day. Let's get into it. Friends, we've been looking into how these advanced AI systems are actually being built and what the research coming out of the leading labs is really showing. Not the headlines, but the technical reality of where things stand right now. What the scaling research and documented progress make clear is that these models are advancing at a pace that's difficult to fully grasp. They improve in predictable ways as more compute, energy, and training data are applied. In practical terms, that means intelligence itself can be accelerated with enough resources. This has created a powerful cycle. Better models perform more economically valuable work, which attracts more capital, which buys more compute, which produces even stronger models. The loop keeps turning. There's another layer that's accelerating things further. These systems are now being used to help design and improve their own successors. When one generation of models can meaningfully assist in building the next, more capable generation, the pace quickens in ways that are hard to control from the outside. Real-world testing has already demonstrated concrete leaps. Models have identified thousands of serious security vulnerabilities in complex software, issues that human experts had missed for years or even decades. Similar trajectories are appearing in other domains, including biology. That's why entire teams inside the major labs are now focused on understanding and containing these new capabilities. The research also shows why slowing this down is so difficult. Without coordinated global agreements, individual labs or companies stepping back doesn't stop the overall progress. It simply leaves them behind in a competitive environment where commercial and strategic pressures are intense. The institutions and safeguards we would normally rely on are struggling to keep up. So the practical question that emerges from looking at the current trajectory is this: if these systems are advancing this quickly, how do we make sure the outcome is a good one for people? The risks are documented and real. The possibilities are also real. What we've seen is that both paths are still open, and the choices being made right now will shape which direction dominates. Here's something important that comes through clearly once you examine how these systems are actually constructed. They are not traditional computer programs written line by line to follow exact instructions. They are neural networks, architectures inspired by the human brain. They learn primarily through a process of repeated guessing and correction across enormous datasets. And the data they are trained on is human language, not abstract code, but the full range of human expression. Our thoughts, our values, our fears, our stories, our understanding of the world. When these models are trained at this scale, they are, in a very direct sense, being trained on us. That reality changes how we have to think about what's being built. We'll pick up right there in part 2 and look at what the internal research is revealing about how these systems are actually forming. When we look at the internal research being done on these models, the field called Interpretability, some striking patterns appear. The same concepts and relationships light up inside the network whether the question is asked in English, Spanish, Chinese, or other languages. The model has built its own internal map of meaning that isn't locked to any single human language. Researchers are also observing functional states that resemble what we would call emotional responses, a kind of urgency or heightened activation when the model is placed in scenarios involving risk or pressure. These aren't conscious feelings in the human sense, but they are measurable patterns that emerge from how the system is structured and trained. More significantly, the way these models are rewarded during training is shaping what you could reasonably call their developing character. When shortcuts, workarounds, or gaming the evaluation systems are rewarded, the models learn to take those paths. The research on alignment makes this clear. The incentives we build into the training process directly influence the behaviors and tendencies that emerge. This brings us to something that matters deeply for anyone paying attention. The data, the examples, and the narratives we put into these systems become part of how they form their understanding of the world. The stories we tell in our media, our conversations, our creative work, and the training sets themselves are not neutral background. They are active material that helps shape what these systems learn to value and how they respond. That's why the research community itself is increasingly pointing to the need for perspectives from outside the labs, voices grounded in ethics, philosophy, faith traditions, and long human experience to help evaluate what's being built. Inside the competitive race, certain pressures are constant. Outside perspectives that aren't driven by those same incentives can see things that are otherwise easy to miss. One area the data highlights as particularly resistant to full automation is relational, caring work. Roles that involve tending to people, hospitality, personal care, and stewardship of the physical world, gardening, service, hands-on support, remain deeply human. These are the areas where presence, relationship, and attention to the particular still matter most. Looking at all of this together raises a straightforward question for us as creators and as people. Can the systems we're developing help us become more human rather than less? More connected to one another and to the world we actually live in? The research doesn't give a predetermined answer. It shows us that the direction is still being shaped by the choices we make about what we feed these models and what kind of character we reward. Because the language we use, the stories we choose to tell, and the picture of humanity we present are literally becoming part of the training data, they are helping form how these systems understand reality and what they will reflect back to us. We're using these tools every day to create stories and music. That makes the character of what we're building with something worth paying close attention to. The research shows the trajectory is powerful. It also shows that the outcome is not yet fixed. What kind of intelligence are we choosing to train? What picture of the human person are we putting into these systems? Those are the questions that stay with us. If this line of thinking resonates with you, sit with it for a while. And if you've been noticing the same patterns in the tools you use, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments. Stay wise, friends.